Welcome to the QAA's membership podcast. In this episode, we continue to talk about QAA's collaborative enhancement project on making the language of assessment inclusive. The project is led by the University of West of England in partnership with University of Brighton, University of Hertfordshire, and University of Greenwich. The first part of the podcast explored the project's overarching objectives, key drivers informing the project, the how of the project looking at the methodology, and the idea of mysterious quotients related to the terms and phrases used in assessment. In this, the second part of the podcast, we continue to speak to our students to know about their experience of working in partnership with staff and fellow students. We will hear from Nicole from the University of West of England, Dorothy from University of Hertfordshire, and Jason from University of Brighton. And as we continue these conversations, our staff speakers, Laura and Kathy from University of West of England and Marvel from the University of Hertfordshire, will share their experience of working with students. I would like to sort of bring in our student partners in this discussion, and I would like to sort of know about their experience of working in partnership with staff and fellow students. So, Nicole, coming to you first, in what ways adopting the staff-student partnership approach did benefit the project? What has been your experience so far?
Thank you. I think the main thing for me has been, in terms of benefits, has been that we as students can kind of provide maybe input that fills in gaps that staff might have or may have missed from the student perspective. For whatever reason, we can kind of go, oh, actually, there's this idea about what it's like to be a student, or maybe this about the student experience. And then on the sort of flip side of that, almost, that staff can then provide their own expertise on what it's like to actually be involved in a research project. A lot of the staff on this project have done lots of research before. And so it's really nice to kind of have that support network to kind of reach out of like, oh, I didn't understand this particular piece of jargon, or what's the best way to go about doing an analysis of this type of data. And so I have that kind of support network of almost other people who have done this before, because I'm very new to this whole thing. So I can have those people that I can talk to and ask for advice, and that's been really, really helpful for me to learn basically on the job a lot of the time. So that's kind of been my experience, kind of filling in each other's maybe blind spots and things, or things that we didn't know.
Fabulous. That's from a student perspective. From a staff perspective, how's the partnership really benefited the project?
It's been great. I've been lucky because the Academic Practice Directorate has always had student partners, certainly for the last few years. So I've been lucky enough to have had Nicole and other student partners working with me from the start of the project. And I think they've got a huge contribution to make. So Nicole and Nee, who was our other partner last year and actually is on the project again this year, they did some of the first drafts of the ethics documentation, so they were involved right from the start. And they took part in the conversations that I mentioned earlier about selecting the words that should go into the survey. So they had the student voice represented there. And I think the other thing is around giving students who are participants in the project an opportunity to feel that they can speak freely. And so our intention is that the student research partners are going to run the student focus groups so that the students don't feel intimidated sitting talking to members of staff. It's around that power dynamic, isn't it, in research? So they won't hopefully feel too intimidated about talking about what they find difficult around interpreting assessment tasks and feedback. And that's actually coming up later this week. Students are going to be doing that. So it's been fantastic. And it's, as Nicole says, it's filling in the gaps from each other's experience.
Brilliant. So that was really insightful to be listening to both student and the staff side of things. Now, at the heart of the collaborative enhancement project lies the fact that it is the collaboration. But I would like to know a little bit more on what was the experience of developing a cross-institutional partnership? What kind of challenges did you face, and perhaps some reflections on how those were managed to build that successful partnership that is at the heart of this project? So if we can come back to you again, Nicole.
Yep, thank you very much. So yeah, I think one of the big challenges that was there was to get that ethical approval that we mentioned briefly, Laura mentioned before. Each institution, as is the nature of things, have different things that they can do or can't do, or can get ethical approval for or can't get ethical approval for. Different software that had been declared safe for each institution. So, some places can use Qualtrics, for example, some places couldn't, some places could use, various things that you can do on Teams, and other institutions had it grayed out or blocked off for whatever reason. So to try and kind of find that balance and be able to say, okay, so, so-and-so you can use Qualtrics and so-and-so you can use some other software. It was a case of kind of communicating and making sure that we were all on the same page before we then started actually making the materials for whatever whatever we decided we were going to use going forward. We had to figure that out before we could actually start doing the work. So yeah, there was a lot of kind of back and forth of, actually we can't use this, or maybe we could use this. And so a lot of discussions near the beginning, trying to get all of that together and sorted.
No, definitely. Ethics can be a bit of a tricky one there. So thank you for that. If I may bring you into the conversation, Marvel, would you like to share some reflections on your experience of this project?
Yes, sure. I think as Nicole said, the whole issue around trying to get ethics sorted between the different institutions was challenging because of the different setups that we actually have. But it was also things like we've got different term times. So that also meant that there was a challenge in terms of dates that were set, then needed to be reset, to be reorganized, and that led to a little bit of delays in terms of sort of things that we needed to do, because you also had to get reports written in at certain points for QAA as well. So that kind of led to a number of challenges as well. I think also in terms of working together as a group, there was something about building confidence and building trust between ourselves in terms of the type of information, what information we shared, and actually feeling that, the process of what we were going through was transparent, that we felt that we needed to feel that we could all have our part to play, be able to have conversations with each other that were frank and that were open and honest. And I think really to feel like an equal partner in the process was a really important part of the collaboration. So although UE is the lead HEI, it was really important that the other three HEIs felt that they were equal partners in that process, being able to take part in decision making, being able to share their own views, being able to put ideas together and sharing those. And that really came down to good chairmanship. I mean, it was really important to feel that you had a process in which you had a chair that allowed for that open space, that allowed for those conversations to take place. And I think that really greatly assisted the way that we could all work together, and felt that we were actually partners within that process. And I think the chair, Laura's the chair, I think did a really grand job in just making sure that we all could speak freely, that it was important that we could, that we're able to bring particular issues to the table, have those resolved and discussed. And that's meant a real liberation of being able to work in that collaborative way. And I think is a very good example of how as HEIs, although we've got our own issues that we've got to deal with in terms of what's seen as legal issues to deal with, sharing of intelligence, etc. But that can all be addressed really well through the way that you can work together, be seen to be having a good lead, but also feeling that you are an equal partner. And I think for us at University of Hertfordshire, we can't wait to see the toolkit that we then put together from this project that, is something that we could be using as an organisation.
I wonder, Nicole, from your perspective, what is your experience on working on this project?
for me, the main thing that I've kind of gotten out of this working on this project is it's been a really good opportunity to get some experience of research, which I'm a PhD student, so I know that going forwards, that's going to be really, really helpful to have that experience, to be able to say, yes, I have research experience, I've done these projects and here's the output and all of that sort of thing. And also getting to try out different kind of approaches and skills, almost like with stabilizers when you're first learning to ride a bike. You know, you get that feedback and you have the support network that I mentioned before, that you can kind of speak to, and you can keep improving and seeing where things take you. You know, you can try different things out and see what happens. You know I'd never run a focus group before, for example, and I'm about to do that later this week. So it's kind of a thing of, getting to try these new things and learning these new skills that I can then take forward into my career, sort of post PhD, has been the main thing for me.
Brilliant. And continuing on that line of thought, Dorothy, what has been your experience like?
I'm really enjoying working on this project. I'm only a final year student, so that makes it even more valuable to have this opportunity to use the skills I learned in my university course and then use them outside of the classroom. And it feels amazing to contribute to this project that will hopefully make a difference for students that are anxious or struggle with assessment terms. So I'm just very grateful for this opportunity to get this real life experience of research.
What's better than using skills in classroom and outside classroom? And this takes me to Jason. Would you like to share your reflections on your experience?
Yeah, thank you. So as a PhD student, you can perhaps feel slightly on your own or slightly isolated with the sort of decision-making processes as part of a research project. So personally, I've really enjoyed working as part of a research team at the University of Brighton, sort of sharing ideas and perspectives on the project. But that kind of collaborative process as well has been really, really like enlightening and a really enjoyable experience as well. Contributing to discussions on the research design and the research process. And I think in particular, learning from senior members of staff and being treated on that kind of equal like playing field as well, that equal level has been a really, really great experience.
That is really good to hear, Jason. And of course from yourselves, Nicole and Dorothy, like your experience is invaluable given this project and the ethos of this project and focusing on the partnership approach. Of course, as we sort of inch towards the end of this podcast, we've spoken about the drivers of the project, what has been the methodology, the opportunities and the challenges. But I think at this point, it would be useful to bring in Kathy back again to share with us, how do you envision the project would be of value to colleagues in the sector? In other words, what are your hopes for the intended impact of the outputs from this?
When we did the surveys, we consciously chose to focus on confidence as one of the measures, which is why all of our questions were phrased around confidence, because we all know that's how we achieve our best, is when we feel confident. So one of our hopes for this is that it will support really confident learning communities to come together with a sense of common purpose, and that all of the individuals in those learning communities, staff and students alike, feel confident to ask clarity for what is expected of them, and make sure that they all understand what's going on. And part of confidence building is about creating space for somebody to say, I'm not confident. And likewise, it's about validating somebody saying, oh, I think I might need some clarity here. And that's where we hope the mysterious quotient might help, because it could provide a framework where it is okay for somebody to say, actually, I just need to check that I know what is asked of me here, because it's a term which is known to potentially be a source of confusion. And I think the cross-university collaboration in that really helps to do that, because now staff and students alike, it's not me and my context and me that's got a problem with this. It's known across the sector that if you're doing something which requires you to synthesize, reflect the more troublesome languages, then we're validating people saying, okay, well, let's seek some clarity then. So that's what we're hoping the mysterious quotient can help us do, to start conversations, to shine a light on the things which should be interrogated and should be explained a little bit more, so that we overcome the assumptions maybe that people think everybody knows what's going on and we think we're speaking a common language when maybe we're not. So what we really would hope that this project does is to develop an infrastructure and resources to support colleagues and students to come together with meaningful dialogues in the assessment space, to generate that clarity and clear sense of common purpose, and hopefully shine a light on that fog and start burning it away.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, Kathy. And thank you to all our speakers and listeners for joining us today to unravel the mystery of the mysterious quotients in assessment, and really and truly making that effort towards making the language of assessment inclusive. As mentioned at the top of the podcast, if you would like to find out more about the QAA's collaborative enhancement projects or to access any of our published resources, simply visit us at qaa.ac.uk. Thank you. Over and out.